Hello, everyone. Welcome to Blood Bowl Live for the preview, our very first of our coverage of the East Anglian Tournament Series. We're going to be going through all of the teams for the first tournament in the East Anglian Series, which is Ness Point 2, the Ness Point Cup 2. I'm going to get the full name, and I'm going to make sure I say the full name correct every time as best I can. Joining me this week for this preview, none other than Ness Point Tio, Andrew Philbot. Andy, thank you so much for coming along. Are you as excited as I am? I feel like we've been talking about Eats for a long time, and we're finally now doing our first bit of Eats coverage. So I'm pretty excited.
I'm really excited at the fact that the area has got its own tournament series. You know, we're now not lost in the bigger part of like the southeast. Obviously, us breaking away, we've got quite a good Blood Bowl scene. Obviously, Ipswich, Colchester, Chelmsford, other places around Cambridgeshire and Peterborough. So it's nice that that we can kind of break away and find, you know, our best players to send off to Sheffield next year for 2027, which it'll now be. So yeah, really looking forward to it. Be a good year.
Impressive that we've got 18 tournaments within Eats between now and the end of the year. It is a jam-packed calendar, and we are starting off with a two-dayer in the most easterly point in the country. I was going to say county, and then I did immediately correct myself before I said it and say no, most easterly point in the country. Tell me about Ness Point then. It's Ness Point 2, so we've done one before. What does the rule set look like? How's it looking? What are the coaches going to expect from Ness Point 2?
So I'd probably say break it into kind of two parts. So obviously with Ness Point being in the town of Lowestoft, which is a coastal town, we've taken the coastal weather table from the Death Zone book. So we have a bit more wacky rules. So don't worry about your players disappearing because, of the sweltering heat. But do worry about the fact that your one turn might get ruined by the fact that your movement might get reduced by one, for example. The other thing I'd probably say about the rule set is I've tried to make it relatively safe, considering it's the first one in the area for 2025. Only big one that's kind of been is the Welsh Open, and they had a very flat rule set. So the way I designed it is I looked at a matrix produced by Team England captain and squad member Thulian and Torquemada, and they kind of produced some theory craft about what they think the teams need in terms of cash and skill points. And so I decided I wanted to keep with the kind of traditional 1150 cash, and tried to just kind of differentiate if a team needed more cash, but I couldn't give them more cash. I'd give them more skill points. If they were getting more cash than perhaps they needed, I took some skill points off. So that's kind of the reason why some people got upset that Amazons are all on their own in tier 1 with only 5 skill points. And also the reason why there was some good debate about Norse perhaps being slightly under-tiered, being in tier, I think it's 4. I've got this rule set somewhere, but they get a lot of skill points in this one. Only 2 teams though have gone for the Norse, so I think potentially that says that the rule set wasn't really weighted into Norse. But the first thing you pick up if you have a look on the tour plan, you look under the statistics, it's, with 22, 23 teams signed up, it's reasonably varied. No elves in sight whatsoever, which will delight all the bashing coaches. It's a very bashy tournament. 2 Necro, 2 Lizards, 2 Black Orcs, 2 Norse, 2 Nurgle, 2 Tomb Kings, and then you've got 2 Snotlings, which I'm sure we'll talk about later. And then you've got a Zon, an Undead, a Goblin, a Renegade, a Bretonnian, an OWA, a Chaos Chosen, a Human, and a Skaven. So quite a varied field, which I really like. I'm glad people are taking different things. So it'll also provide some really good statistics, I think, for the area to see where kind of teams are at and what we think they need, so we can kind of tier them well in the future.
I think even a tournament with like the number of coaches that you've got, for there to be no race or no team that is more than just two of them, is pretty nice to have that spread, because I can't remember the last tournament I've seen where you've not had the odd team where you've suddenly had 3, 4, 5 coaches who are like, I'm doing that one. So it's nice that you've got kind of a decent spread, even if that spread is punchy and the elves are being very much lived somewhere else. We're talking about teams then. Why don't we dive straight in and look at the rosters? Rosters have all been unlocked. So if you are heading to Ness Point and you go on tour play, you will now be able to have a look there, and you will be able to see what to expect. But we're going to go through every single one, and we will start at the very top of the list with now Rat's what I call Music 2. It's a pun I've seen before, and it forever is one of my favorites. Looking at the roster that James has gone for here, we've got a Rat Ogre with Juggernaut. We've got 2 Skaven Blitzers, one with Break Tackle and one with Tackle. We've got 2 Gutter Runners, both with Block, a Thrower with Leader, and then a Clan Rat with Wrestle, followed by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 other Clan Rats, 3 rerolls, 1 assistant coach, and an APOC coming in for this Rat team. The Gutter Runners, Andy, he's not gone for, I guess when you've got 4 Gutter Runners, you maybe put some block on, but you maybe look at some strip balls, some wrestles, some other things like that. If you've only got 2, both of them having block, maybe the safer option?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe I think there was obviously a school of thought where you probably put 1 wrestle on there, considering then you've got that deep threat. Given the fact that the Skaven Blitzers have, I don't care what anyone else says, an absolute buff in the fact that they've got an extra movement, and they've now got strip ball, they become really, really dangerous. You only need a deep kick. And, we spoke about the type of field we've got. It's very bashy. It's going to be very slow. That I reckon these Skaven could actually do pretty well. I recommend almost to everybody now, absolutely take the Apothecary. 75% chance that you're going to get that player back if they're injured. And considering this seems to be a version where we've got a lot less positionals, that Apothecary can protect one of those key ones. We know the Rat Ogre can do some work, taking some cheeky removals off the line of scrimmage, and we know James obviously is a A&D BBL lead player, knows what he's doing with the Skaven. I expect this roster will do well this weekend, and I think there's really good matchups for it as well.
I guess you used to have the conundrum with Skaven is most of the time when you're looking at doing a Skaven tournament build, it was like, okay, well, do I go full Gutter Runners or do I go a Rat Ogre? That decision's kind of been taken away from you, which means then, he's taking 4 rerolls to this with one of those leader ones. It looks incredibly strong, and in James's hands, absolutely not one to be messed with. James will do well, undoubtedly, with that roster, but we will move on to the next one. Do you want to take us through this Chaos? Oh, I love Chaos Chosen. Chosen roster here. Zorn of Skull United. How's it looking?
Yeah, so this is Gav Coleman, who is vice captain of Team Wales, coming down very kindly to be my player 0. So we might not see this roster, but a claw on the Ogre, which I think is really nice. 3 sensible block on the Chaos Chosen Warriors, and then a pro, which is quite cool. Gone for 2 Wrestle Beastmen, a block on 1 more. Got 12 players, an aggressive 4 rerolls, but no Apothecary. But we do have the team mascot, so maybe Gav might be playing quite an aggressive play style.
Yeah, the team mascot I always loved in the season 2 edition. In this new 3rd edition, it's cheaper and it works more often. It's a no-brainer if you've got the money for it, really, for 25, I think. We were talking to was talking to the chaps from Down Underworld Denizens about Chaos Chosen and how they think they have been nerfed rather than buffed in the new edition, because Thick Skull kind of, sure, whatever it is, but actually, an armbar not being them being a really tough team, going for a lot of the block and wrestle style skills, clearly gone a particular way. Would you have gone for any mutations, like for a ball carrier? Would you have given yourself an option there?
I think you probably could argue that because Gav's gone quite high reroll, he doesn't need to kind of worry about it too much. If you look at some of the other rosters where you kind of got 2 rerolls or 1 reroll and a leader, you argue that sure hands or extra hands or big mouth, something like that, which is going to make ball carrying a little bit easier, I think makes more sense. But also we have to remember we've got the new rule of secure the ball. So these chosen don't have to rely on a 3+ and then into a reroll. If the ball goes deep, you can just 2+ it. They want to take 8 turns to roll down the field anyway and try and score on turn 8. I don't hate the fact that there's no ball recovery skill in there. Just obviously it becomes a bit more of a problem if you start facing teams which have strip ball, which have wrestle, and we know this. We're going to see a few of those this evening. So it's a solid roster. I think it's dependent on where kicks go, and how kind Nuffle is. I think is probably my overall thoughts on it.
I would like to see Chaos Chosen do well, because I never managed to find or be at a tournament where I see them particularly excel. But hopefully, if he gets to play, then we'll see how he gets on with this roster. We'll move on to the next one, and it is what's the difference between Jam and Marmalade? We'll leave that team name exactly where it is, and I'm not going to read any of the names of all of these players either, just so I don't trip myself up. But we'll look through this Old World Alliance roster. He has gone for, we have a halfling there, no skills on that one, dwarf lineman, a human catcher with block, a human thrower with leader, a human blitzer with mighty blow, a troll slayer, a dwarf blitzer with mighty blow, 2 more human linemen, another dwarf lineman, a tree man with a secondary of block, and then a human lineman as well. 3 rerolls within this OWA build. We saw what OWA did at the Welsh Championships, the sheer number of OWA teams that were there, and the number that were in the top half or even the top 10 they did very, very well. What do you think of kind of the split of skills here? It's a lot kind of, I guess it's kind of easy and difficult with OWA because they've got a lot of the skills that you need. So kind of you're starting from a very strong place and you're just buffing anything that you give a skill to. So what do you think to this one?
Yeah, I mean, I like the choice. I think obviously block is an absolute must on the catcher. I think mighty blow obviously makes for a really good choice on the human blitzer. You now got tackle mighty blow, so if you are facing something like Skaven, that's really useful. We've spoken about the type of field that we're going to be facing, so tackle might not come in as much use as we maybe would like to plan for, but still mighty blow is really useful if you're coming up against sort of high armor teams. The block pick on the tree I think is quite interesting. As kind of an anchor point, you're tending to get 3 dice. I think the major difference you might see with Old World, who did dominate, kind of the top end of the Welsh Open, is the fact that you've got a flat set of skills. And I think considering Old World get a lot of starting skills anyway, they kind of benefit from the fact that they get the same number of skills as everyone else. So I think the fact that they get their skills and maybe other rosters is going to harm them. The other thing, just from a personal perspective of playing humans a lot last year, and essentially, we've got some slower humans with better armor, and then we've got some faster humans with a little bit less armor, is when you come up against those teams with strength 4, you need some help. So I wonder whether guard might be a miss. Quite hard to get guard on this roster, because it's a secondary on the dwarves, and that's where you'd want it. And so I wonder whether they've just been put on the point of you have to make some difficult choices. And I think this roster's gone for a choice where, okay, we're going to have reliability on the tree, which I think is very sensible. And so I think they're going to be trying to anchor off that tree and try and keep it moving up the pitch as long as they possibly can. And at that point, then the catcher can spring the trap and run into the end zone.
Catcher makes a good, because they're now strength 3, although they've got the lower armor, utilizing that if you need to as a blitzer or something similar to kind of catch up as well with block and dodge on it. It's going to be a difficult one to remove. So yeah, Ash could do well with this roster. We'll see how he gets on. OWA have set themselves a high bar in the new edition. Looking at we're going from Old World Alliance to pure humans. Why don't you take us through Wolfenberg Bulls?
Yeah, so this is another a friend of mine from the Norwich League, so the ABBL, so the Athena Blood Bowl League. So this is Sam running his Trusted Humans. He always plays humans. He knows how to play this roster. Is playing humans in the current Norwich League. I think the choices here are pretty sensible, and this is probably what I would go for if I was playing humans. So block on the thrower. We've then got 2 catchers. He's gone 1 block, 1 wrestle, which I think is quite interesting. The human blitzer, obviously you take the mighty blow and you put the team captain on it, which means that's going to get pro, and that's going to stay on the field and potentially get some of those re-rolls back, which is really useful. I've got another human blitzer with guard, again just trying to help on the line of scrimmage. A double wrestle lineman, or 2 wrestle linemen, which I think is good, and obviously that anchor in the middle with the ogre taking guard. Very sensible choice again of apothecary, I think, considering the cut of those 2 blitzers as positionals. Even though the catcher's got a massive buff, 3 re-rolls. Think a very, very solid roster. Again, just another solid roster.
Yeah, it is looking good. You know, the block tackle on those human blitzers is going to be so key up against the right team. I guess in a more bashy field and maybe less edge, sort of see what dodge you come up against for that tackle, but it's still going to be a massive benefit. It looks very strong, and that team captain and 3 rerolls. So far, my experience against team captain, it has been very, very good, and it has kind of helped you with those rerolls and keeping those and utilizing them more in each half. So a very nice looking roster here. I feel like wrestle for some people is a very popular skill anyway. Now with the limitation on elite skills, wrestle is, I think, gonna shoot up there as just a much more kind of fun choice. And having a couple of cheeky halflings in there to possibly make the most of a wrestle down player and go in and do something with it.
Yeah, I mean, I missed off the original kind of breakdown that Sam's also taken a bribe. So I think that's probably baked into the plan there. No pun intended, given he's taken 2 halflings. Again, I just wonder whether the fact that there's a lot of strength through that they're all strength 3 apart from the ogre. And it's kind of a well-known problem that because humans have lost 2 blitzers, they've lost 2 guard caddies. And so whether the humans might get bogged down on the line of scrimmage, particularly in a very bashy field. Humans feel a lot better as a bash team against elves now than an edge team against bash. So that's kind of my take on it. But as again, Sam knows humans better than I do. So if there's someone who can make it work, it'll be Sam.
We'll see how he gets on. We'll go on to the next team, and we've got Bretonians coming in for it's Tom Huns, who is taking Bretonians in league as well. And we have got 2 Bretonian Knight throwers, 1 with leader, 1 with block, 2 Bretonian Knight catchers, both with block, 2 Grail Knights, both coming with guard, a Squire with tackle, a Squire with frenzy. That's a fun choice. 2 rerolls, 1 assistant coach, and an APOC. I'm really enjoying the frenzy on that one. It's kind of an out there choice, frenzy wrestle to just cause a bit of havoc and maybe break up a play a little bit. I quite like that. That sounds quite fun.
Yeah, and I also like because they've got wrestle, so you're potentially giving yourself 4 dice to get the ball carrier down. But I mean, if you speak to Luke, part of the A&D BBL as well, and obviously regular participant on You Guys Please, I love frenzy. It's probably one of my favorite skills to put on any tournament roster. I play Dark Elves because I get 2 frenzy pieces when I play them in league. Frenzy as well is just a really good skill to take to narrow the field, and because you've got those 2 Grail Knights with their strength 4, you're forcing things to play in the middle of the park. Use that armor 10 and then use the other armor 9 players to kind of soak up the pressure. I think this might be a really good team on defense. And I think you might see them kind of do well to kind of eke out 1-0 wins as we kind of go through, the phases of this season. But I'm really excited to see how this team plays. Obviously, this team is almost an unknown quantity in tournaments, and this will be the first time it'll have been played this year in the area. So very much looking forward to seeing this one play.
I'm really keen to watch kind of how Bretonians evolve, because I look at them and I want them to have some slightly odd rugby style passing plays, and I just don't know whether they're going to really be used with that or not, and I'm just not sure. But I would love to see it, and it'll be great to see how Tom gets on with these. Very, very good player. Won the we're going to get the right tournament that he won last year. It was the Suffolk Subterranean.
I think so, yeah.
Which I believe he won either the weekend before or after winning the league.
It was before, yeah.
Just before. So, Tom's got pedigree. Let's see how he can do with these Knights. And we'll go on then to the next roster. Well, we're going from one new team to another. Bretonians to Tomb Kings, Cursed and Covered. Take us through this terrifyingly guard heavy Tomb King roster that I'm now looking at.
Yeah, so this is Soul Tide. So we seem to be nicely going from kind of like A&D BBL players to non-A and D BBL players, and I know all the non-A and D BBL
we've got the right
players.
Order here. We're doing well.
So this is really good. Yeah, so Soul Tide is a UK BBL player. So I'm obviously heavily involved in that. I think 4 guard on Tomb Guardians is absolutely terrifying. You can then obviously put the skeleton lineman around that. The block tackle blitzers, again, just a really good choice. And then the throwers take and block, not leaning into the passing buff, which is maybe a little bit disappointing. But
would have been brave, but you'd like to see it, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I mean, they can pass now, right? Or they can pass moderately reliably. If a 3+ is moderately reliable. Blitzer's best keg as well. So there's obviously a lot of thick skull there. So they might not get knocked out as often, but if they do, they're probably coming back. I don't think you'll play against less than 11 when you play this team. I think is probably my main assessment.
Would you be more scared by 4 guard or 4 mighty blow? Is my first question. And my second one is, would you have taken 2 throwers if this were you in this roster? I'm wondering whether I would have felt I needed 2 throwers, whether I would have gone for 1 and then used that money on maybe something like a mascot.
Yeah, I think he's got the 2 throwers there. Do you mean like putting another skill on them? Because he's got 2 there.
I mean, would you have gone for 2, or if you had dropped 1 thrower, taken another lineman instead and had that extra move something else?
I mean, what are you gaining? 25.
You're getting a mascot, maybe.
Yeah, I think probably the extra player with armor 9 is worth it, and an extra movement as well. I don't think you gain enough by dropping it for a skeleton. You're getting a slower player that's easier to remove for the chance of re-rolling something.
Yeah, that's a good shout on the armor and the movement. Actually, I hadn't clocked that kind of improvement, so that does make sense.
Yeah, and in answer to your first question, 4 strength 5 terrify me.
It doesn't matter the
Saltide could have
skill.
put anything on that. You know, he could have put shadowing, and I would have been terrified. It's just so hard to get through them. And you know, I've seen some very good coaches when I play on Blood Bowl 3 or Blood Bowl 2 in those days gone by. Just put their players in a line and just go, come at me, and try and get through. And you just can't, because how do you get past strength 5 when you've got, you know, strength 3 players? You kind of need to just hope for some pals on a 2 dice uphill. It's really terrifying.
You joke, but 4 Tomb Guardians with shadowing coming after my skinks, I would be no, thank you. That would be awful.
Just lumbering after them. That's quite funny.
Stepping after them. We'll move on then, and we've got aftermath of coffee. We've got Nurgle, Mark bringing his Nurgle team. That again, another one he's running in league currently. He's gone for the Rot Spawn, which he has given break tackle to, which I absolutely love. 2 bloaters with claws, 2 bloaters with block, a Pestigore with mighty blow, and a Pestigore with block. He has got 3 rerolls within this team. He's gone for a team mascot, and he has gone for a weather mage, making the most of the fun weather table. This looks fun. This looks like a roster that you would maybe not know entirely what you're going to be up against. But another roster that can take mutations that has avoided them sort of with the build as well.
Yeah, and I also think that we're also starting to see a lot of
my
rosters
apologies.
there.
Clause is of course a mutation. Ignore me. But anyway, yes.
Yeah, no, it's fine. No, I actually, my kind of big thing is we haven't seen yet a lot of teams take secondaries. So although there's been a lot of options to take secondaries, a lot of teams have been deciding to take their primaries. This feels for Mark what his plan is to sit on the line of scrimmage, keep everything there, and keep everything there until they're murdered, and then just roll up the pitch. So do a very Nurgle thing. You know, invite them into Nurgle's garden and just stay there forever until you're forced to leave. I love break tackle. I think that's hilarious.
That's fantastic.
I mean, I think that's going to be a 3+ to do that.
Strength 5, so it's +3. So
wow, so that's 2+.
It's 2+ Rot Spawn, dodging those tentacles into someone's.
Yeah. I mean, I say if I was James playing the Skaven, I would not want to get this at any point in my weekend. This looks horrible, disgusting, according to Nurgle. Yeah.
The only other choice he could have made to be more disgusting, I met somebody at the Blood Bowl Open last September who had taken a Minotaur with Juggernaut and tentacles for the sole purpose of blitzing into the middle of a skink cage at some point over the weekend. And, you know, God love him, he tried so many times to do it against me, and I was so scared every single time as this thing charged in. So, you know, Mark can do similar maybe here with the tentacle and the break tackle. He can kind of get himself into some stunty cages and really kind of clog up a lot of players. So Mark, good luck. I'm very intrigued to see how you get on with that break tackle there. Let's jump on. We'll keep flying through, and we've got another Nurgle roster next. Joseph bringing another Nurgle team. Walk us through this one, then slightly different approach here.
Yeah, so the Rot Spawn takes a more kind of, I would say, conservative choice compared to the last one of guard. Taking another guard on the bloaters. He's gone for 3 block. The 2 heads on the Pestigore, obviously giving it a bit of an agility boost on those dodges. A block on the Pestigore obviously will be the blitzer, I would think. 3 re-rolls, 1 assistant coach, no other inducements, 13 players. Again, I think this just feels really solid. Obviously, Joseph is an extremely good player. I think probably if we look at kind of NAF rankings, will be, I think, probably one of the top 3 coaches in terms of NAF ranking at this event. So although the skills don't look as an exciting choice as the last ones, it's because Joseph knows exactly what he wants to do with the skills that he's got. Yeah, another very scary roster in very scary hands.
I like the two heads on the Pestigore, and I like the fact he's kind of split them there, and yeah, I mean, Nurgle very much suit mutations. You can kind of understand why he's gone the way he has. This is going to be a very solid block to get through, and a team that's going to slow up many other teams in many ways. So, yeah, we'll see which Nurgle team ends up higher. I'm hoping for break tackle purely for the hilarity, but Joseph's got a very good shot here.
Yeah.
Let's jump on to the next roster then. We have got the when people put rosters that I can't pronounce, I'm always like, I'm going to give it a go. Would you call that Iceni Ragers?
As the Iceni, so
Iceni.
it's the old tribes of East Anglia.
Okay.
So it's like the Boudica tribes.
Right.
So there we go.
Thank you.
It's always a learning experience on this podcast.
There we are. He has gone for 2 off-runners, 1 with block, 1 with guard, 2 Valkyries, 1 with dodge, 1 with wrestle, 2 Berserkers, 1 with guard, 1 with mighty blow, a Norse Raider lineman with tackle. He has put the Yeti in there, and he has given it mighty blow. So claws mighty blow on the Yeti. He's taken 2 rerolls. He has taken 1 assistant coach. No other inducements there. He's got 13 players in the roster. That's looking very solid. You can kind of see the split between the Valkyries, which way he's going there, kind of a blitzer ball sacker with the wrestle. But the Berserkers can be quite good blitzers in this team as well. The jump up giving them a good amount of movement if they get knocked down. So this is looking pretty nice.
Yeah, I think it's very, very solid. 13 players. No apothecary though, but 13 players is pretty good. I think Norse obviously with the thick skull. If then you roll for the knockout, the 8's going to keep them on. So although it's quite easy to break their armor, they're harder to get rid of. They can be quite a fast team. Certainly, I suspect against what they're going to come up against this weekend. With those Valkyries, and the Valkyries are just monstrously good. Catch, dauntless, pass, strip ball. You've got one with wrestle. I mean, the ball's just not safe if you leave it in a kind of a blitzful position for Queen Boudica, that Valkyrie. It's interesting the choice of tackle on the Norse Raider, but then again, I also think what else would you put on them? They can only take a general skill. I'm not sure if they actually can take devious. So maybe a dirty player could have gone on there as well. I'm not familiar with Norse very much. Played one tournament with them, which went moderately well. But again, this one feels like maybe could you have spent for a secondary somewhere? But again, coaches just choosing to go for primaries rather than take the options of the secondaries that were on offer.
I've just had a quick look, and Devious not available to the Norse team, so no fouling piece coming in. I think with the 4 frenzy pieces there, it's going to be so easy to mark up and pull apart a cage to then go in and strip ball wrestle with a Valkyrie. You kind of can see that play coming a mile off, and even then you're going to struggle to defend against it with 4 pieces with frenzy kind of moving things around. So looking very strong with this roster. Norse, one of the nice teams to look at, because as far as what your options of positionals are, it's the same and it hasn't changed, so I don't have to suddenly be second guessing myself and wondering whether 4 Valkyries was an option at one point.
I also like Norse from a fact of that Yeti can just win you a game, and across a 2-day event, the Yeti will win you at least one of those games with claws and mighty blow. You'll just have that game where you just roll hot and the Yeti will just tear through everything. So I like the choice of mighty blow there, because I think that's kind of like you can almost notch a win or one in the win column just from that piece, I think, with the dice variability.
Let's have a look at the next roster on our list. It is a Black Hawk roster, the chunky lads. Why don't you take us through this one then? I'm liking a good amount of goblins tucked in here and a secondary.
This is another one of my friends, Snow Troll, who's coming from Charis Games. There will be a stall for anybody who wants to purchase some lovely miniatures from him for this tournament. So please bring your spare pounds and notes and buy some of the lovely miniatures that you're missing for your league seasons. So we've got a block trained troll. We've got 2 black orcs with block, 2 with guard, 2 with mighty blow. We've then obviously got the I'm going to argue I think the best goblins in the game. I'm sure Scott Norman would debate with me on that. With the thick skull, they're just super annoying. 3 re-rolls, no apothecary. The fact that they've got 14 players, the fouling game, if the mighty blow does not work, I think really opens up.
Yeah, it's this looks. I've got a friend of mine who has played a lot of Black Orcs recently, and the combination of skills looks very similar to what I know he's looked at before. Having the option of that secondary on that train troll, giving that block makes it a very dangerous piece in the middle there. And you would 3 spare goblins just makes them so much more tempting to throw in the right situation. Each one is a possible bomb waiting to bounce its way through your opposition. So I can't, I would not want to come up against this roster, offensively as well. The ones that don't have block, having brawler and grab to move you around, it's Black Orcs are I always look at with a certain level of envy, because I wish my lizards had that brawler instead of Juggernaut sometimes. But I'm glad I got the speed advantage, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, from playing sort of against these teams in league play on the KBBL, Black Orcs are probably the only team that genuinely frighten me. Play against them, what usually happens is you have some players on the line of scrimmage and they just disappear behind it, never to be seen again. Apart from like in the injured box. But yeah, they're so tough to play against, because you just can't control where your players are going to go after they get blocked, because of the grab, which I think is a very, very underappreciated skill. I think grab's really good. And obviously we have mentioned that as we've got a trained troll on this team, there's no loner. So it's now more reliable than it was in the old rule set. That's going to be a really big piece. You've got a chance for it to regenerate as well if you get lucky and remove it. Horrible roster, like just disgusting.
Yeah, definitely going to control a couple of the pitches over those games. Let's look at the next roster. Then it is another Norse roster that we have got. Before we do, I'll just say that Scott is in the chat and he has said, heard my name. Best goblins are, in my opinion, on the standard orc roster, because they all have passing 3 up. Interesting. Okay, let's look at this North. Effing Norse, effing Vikings, this Norse team. We have got 2 off-werners, 1 with block, 1 with guard, a Yeti with a secondary of block, a Valkyrie with leader, 2 berserkers with guard, another Valkyrie with dodge, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 Norse Raider linemen, 2 beer boars coming in for this one, 2 rerolls, 2 assistant coaches, and no other inducements. I was going to say when we talked about the last Norse roster, I was like, no beer boars in this one. Wonder whether we'll see beer boars or not. Beer boars do not have access to devious skills, but we have got 2 fantastically named Pork Chop and Ham Hock, 2 beer boars, which I was slightly surprised at.
I love beer boars, and they endeared themselves to me forever at the Suffolk Subterranean, when a beer boar decided to break into a tackle using its stunty titchy and surf hack phlegm on a 3 dice uphill into the crowd. It was a thing of beauty. I was shouting loudly, "Piggy, Piggy!" It was absolutely brilliant. Well, it wasn't good for Phil, who was playing against me. But that they are a very, very good piece, because they genuinely do. They offer you that secret surf threat that you don't think about, because they will dodge through on a 2+. Because they've got the 3+, because they've got the stunty and titchy. So if used well, they can actually offer another dimension. Interesting, we've seen a slightly different take with this one. Elysian's gone obviously with the block on the Yeti instead of the Mighty Blow, so designed to take the double on this one instead of having an extra skill on the Norse Raider. Be interesting to see how the two teams compare. I'm not sure if they've gone exactly the same. I know they obviously haven't gone the same thing on the Valkyrie, with Elysian going for a leader in comparison to a wrestle. But I think strip ball probably will be enough to get the ball loose. So it'll be interesting to see how these two compare. And considering obviously the talk was that these might have been under tiered, and the fact that we've only got two actually to compare them, so it'll be really interesting.
If I've said it once, I've said it 100 times. The Yeti should be able to throw teammate. The beer ball should be throwable, and it should act like a bomb once it lands. I will die on that hill. That pig needs to be thrown, and would be fantastic if it was thrown. And
I mean,
will
you've
not
just got to
stand.
add the skill of, instead of like always hungry, you need like something like, I think someone used the phrase like reluctant bomb. So like the beer ball is obviously tries to wriggle free. So on a 1, it manages to wriggle free and obviously scatters. But yeah, you could do some really cool stuff. I also think they should have horns, to be honest.
Yeah,
They really should have horns, and I don't understand why they haven't been given them.
that would be
Really
cool.
great piece. I really love their addition into the Norse roster. I think they're really cool.
Well, we are now on to your roster by the looks of it, and it is Lizard Men. So I'm very intrigued by which direction you've gone with these. I'll let you take us through this one.
Yeah,
What have
so
you gone for?
we've timed this perfectly, where I get to read out my roster to a Lizard Man
Yeah,
coach, and you get to tell me how good or bad it is. So I did hum and ha about it. I changed quite late, after I did double standards. I was going to take Wood Elves, but after everything died at a tournament, I thought, let's take something with more armor. So yeah, I've gone for the standard 7, so 6 Saurus and then 1 Crocs. Debated whether to put guard on the Saurus rather than the Crocs. Went for the Crocs because I can just kind of anchor everything on there. You have to take Frenzy now on one of the Saurus blockers. It's just a must. And particularly, obviously, as I'm limited to 4 block on the Saurus. Because the pricing changes have meant that you can no longer get 12 players. I took the decision to take the Apothecary in order to protect the Saurus. Because I think you can still win with 10 players if you lose a skink. I'm not sure you do as well if I've got 10 players and I've lost a Saurus. So that was kind of my theory. What are your thoughts, Mr. Lizard Man Coach?
well, I've submitted my roster for Kent Team Championship with Lizards. So, but I do have a few days to change it. So
you'll be looking at mine with interest then.
Yeah, I'll be seeing how you get on. Yeah, I like the guard on the Croxagore. And I think because, like you say, because you can only go for the 4 block, so because you can only go for the 4 block, and because you've got the Juggernaut built in, then if the Saurus that you don't give block to, you are predominantly using to blitz in some way, shape, or form if you need to, or even just having them kind of in the back, then it's less of a concern that they don't have block on there. So, you know, freeing up the Croxagore to then have guard, which will be very handy. I'm doing mental gymnastics in my head on you going for 11 players and then the APOC and the mascot rather than 12 players and neither of those two. And I think you're right. When you start to lose it's always, you always have the mindset of protecting the skinks, but actually when you start to lose the Saurus, the game can collapse much
Yeah.
quicker. If you do lose skinks, you only really need one. I mean, I had a game at the weekend where I went down to, I had 6 Saurus and 1 skink on the pitch, and I managed to score. When I went down to having only 2 or 3 Saurus, I was hemorrhaging players and unable to do anything. So it's a weird kind of balance. So I like that you've then got 3 reroll access, possibly 3 rerolls to access, and then that sub that you would have, you're hopefully saving with an APOC that is improved now because of the changes to the injury table. So I'm going to be keeping a very close eye on how you get on.
Yeah, I think if we were still in kind of the old injury rule set, I think it's an easier choice. I think you probably just take the 12th player. But I also like the fact that I can't remember what the old passing stat was for the Chameleons. Was it always 3+?
It was, yeah, it was 3 before, but it's access to skills now, which is the change.
Yeah, and I say when I've tried to build rosters for Lizardmen on Arena, I don't think they usually take Chameleons, but obviously with the Chameleon in, you've got the option to pass. The 1 turn becomes a little bit easier, particularly if you have a deep kick. And actually, with the addition of a frenzy player instead of a block, actually giving your players an opportunity to get into a position to 1 turn has opened that up a bit. I always feel with when I perform the 1 turn, the nervous bit is the dodges. When I'm sitting at the other side of the table, the nervous bit is the blocks, because I'm hoping one of them doesn't go off, because I know if I'm the defending coach, I know as soon as that skink is out, I know that's going through my line and scoring. There's nothing I can do about it. Yeah, so I'm going to see whether I can 1 turn this weekend. I will be delighted if I can. But maybe 2 rerolls is not enough.
I only mastered 1 turns with lizards last season, and I think it was against you in a
yeah, we did have a really good. We had a really good chat about 1 turns, because the lizards have got a really good chance of, at least in league play, if you can get an agility boost on them.
Yeah,
that skink scoring almost every time, and the time it doesn't, it'll die. So you know.
Mine are doing the latter at the minute, but we'll see that. No, yeah, good luck with this roster. I'm very keen to see how this gets on, and I do love a Lizardman team, obviously. Let's go on to the next one. Besters is here, and he's bringing his Chaos Renegade, Fetch United. We have got a Dark Elf here with Dodge, a Human Lineman with Dodge, a Human Lineman with, a Human Lineman with Block, 2 Human Linemen with Block, 3 Human Linemen, 4 Human Linemen with Block, a regular Human Lineman, 2 regular Human Linemen even, Renegade Orc, a Human Thrower with Leader, an Ogre with Guard, a Rat Ogre with Juggernaut, a Troll, and then a Goblin for good luck there. 3 rerolls that you can take with this Chaos Renegade team, and he is taking a temporary cheerleader for 5k as well, which is that new kickoff event where if you've got the cheerleaders that will buff it, the cheering fans that can get you that additional assist on your first block. I'm immediately, it's a small thing and it's only 5k, but I am immediately worried for all of the strength 5s out there at the prospect of one of these strength 5s having an additional free assist on that first block on the line, if that comes up. So probably there's not many times I really like the cheerleader, but actually possibly for this roster, suddenly giving you a strength 6 on turn 1 is not kind of a bad shout for 5k.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think with Renegade, Chaos Renegades a fair bit last year. I think I saw him definitely take it to 1 tournament, maybe another one. I think the thing that Chaos Renegades offers in comparison to the other 2 kind of like human rosters that we've seen, so Old World Alliance and the humans themselves, they've got the ability to punch through the line because they've got those 3 strength 5, and obviously they all have Mighty Blow. If you can get rid of the other guy's big guy on turn 1, thanks to the cheerleader, that's a massive advantage for the Renegades really early in the drive. You then have the tempo, and then it becomes really hard to kind of stop them. obviously the boneheads, the animal savagery can come back to bite the team. But I've always wondered why players, although it's kind of a definite activation, why more players don't actually go, well, if my orc's been removed, you know what? When I blitz with my rat ogre, I'll make sure no one's standing around it. So if I roll a one, I don't worry about losing more players. I can protect it, kind of on its sides by, putting the rat ogre in the middle, leave a gap, and then two other players, potentially the ogre and the troll. And so the rat's kind of like blocking a space, but not really blitzable to a point where you could really hurt it. But I think Renegades actually will be pretty strong, and we know Best is a really good player. He's part of the Eats team this year for Sheffield. So be very, very interested to see how he does. I think again this Renegade roster will do very well.
Yeah, it's interesting that he sort of the focus he's put on the humans and putting the skills on those pieces, not kind of putting one of those block on one of the orcs or somewhere else. He's focused those 4 block on the humans, but that does give kind of a strong kind of good movement. A couple of pieces there. They are some of the quicker, the quickest bits in the team. So as far as kind of possibly 4 blitzing pieces that can go and do whatever. It's a good choice. Yeah, I think this could do very well. Guard feels sensible on the ogre. Juggernaut feels like a must-have on the rat ogre. So some good choices there, and we'll see how those strength 3s get on. We will go on to our next team then, and we have got our first Snotling roster of the day. Why don't you take us through this lovely green-skinned Snotling roster? Lots of bribes, lots of inducements, all sorts of fun here.
So we're going to take out the word lovely and replace it with something else that's not lovely. So obviously taking all the toys that he can, given the new rule on insignificant. So the 2 trolls, one with guard, taking advantage of the secondary with the block. One of the pump wagons has got block, and this is the next player to really watch out for. It's a pump wagon with pile driver, and we'll talk a little bit about that and why it's so good in a moment. The fungus flinger has got accurate, so you've basically got bomber without special rule. You've then got another snotling with dirty player if you didn't think you had enough for the pump wagon. We've then got 16 players, 1 coach, 1 blitzer, 3 bribes.
4
Over to you, Chris.
I mean, it's so Snotlings are so tough because we know how good they were. Always very good at tournaments, particularly with the star player access that they had. And the changes that have been made to them, the fact you have to have insignificant in there, sort of you wondered kind of how that would change things. But the changes to the pump wagon, that no longer being a secret weapon, there's no loner on there. They are. This team has 4 strength 5 pieces that are going to be very, very difficult to remove and are going to be very powerful. Pile driver in there to really get the fouls in as well. It's just an incredible combination that is going to be very difficult it's going to be difficult now without the need of the star players to buff it. So do you think then would you put so far? I mean, it's the first stunty roster we've come to. Do you see other rosters? Are Snotlings always the favourite for any stunty cup at a tournament? Do you think?
I think my opinion is based on having to play against. So Luke played against the Snotling roster at double standards a few weekends back. I had to play Torquemada, who was playing Snotlings. Now, obviously, Torquemada, Team England, is a very good player. Did have stars, but to be fair, Hackflem, who is what he had, he didn't need him. He was literally there to cover for the one turn if his opponent had managed to score an 8. I'm not sure you could classify this team as a stunty team anymore in terms of what we understand a stunty team to be. So we understand stunty teams to be kind of very low win rates, but they do crazy things, and they can get wins like if the dice go their way. Stunted, the Snotlings are just so strong, in my opinion. And having watched 2 games with them against 2 different coaches, they are so strong. The only way you can play against them is you just have to go all in from turn 1 and hope the things die quicker than your guys. If you're wanting to go for a most fouling trophy, and we know there's someone coming who's going to try and win it, and they're listening to this recording, this is what you should have taken, because a pump wagon with pile driver, I mean, what it's first going to do is it's going to smack your players in the mouth, and then if it doesn't remove it, it's going to jump on it, and it'll remove it that way. Those pump wagons are phenomenally good. Obviously, you can temper that with the fact that if you roll early doubles, they might go, but there's 3 bribes there. You're going to have to see 4 doubles. Oh, and you've obviously then got to argue the call. So, one of them might go your way. So that might be 4 bribes. Oh, you can see my feelings on Snotlings. They're just really good. Almost to the point where I think every Stunty Cup is going to be won by Snotlings this year. I feel that strongly about Snotlings, that they are just a cut above the other stunty teams. They're stunty, yes, but they don't work the same as the others.
Yeah,
they're just much better.
Scott Norman, that is, if there's not a gauntlet that's been put down better than that to win a stunty, to take a Stunty Cup away from a Snotling roster this year, I don't know what better one there is. Absolutely, the gauntlet put down. And actually, hey, look at that! It's Scott Norman up next. What? It's as if we planned it. Flumps coming in with a lovely Goblin roster here. The roster is a Train Troll with Strong Arm, another Train Troll with Guard. The Fanatic has Brawler, the Ball and Chain has Brawler. The Looney with the Chainsaw has Lone Fowler. This is going to really test my knowledge of some of these new devious skills.
I'll get Google out.
Do you want to get it? The Doom Diver has Sidestep. You've then got 2 linemen with Pile Driver. He's going for that most fouls. We've got a Pogoer down there on this list with Sure Feet, and we've got an Ooligan with Sneaky Get. The Goblins then fill out the roster to a roster of 14. 3 rerolls here and 3 bribes coming in for this side. Have you been able to very quickly find out what Lone Fowler does?
Yeah, so it's when this player performs a foul action, if there are no players providing an offensive or defensive assist, then this player may re-roll a failed armor roll.
Ew. With the chainsaw. Oh, you bad man, Scott.
That's disgusting, right?
That's pretty disgusting. Look, anyone who's not played Scott before with his goblins, the only thing you need to know is this man does very much doesn't do a lot other than goblins. He knows what he's doing with the goblin side. Most of the time he handicaps himself with goblins by taking no trolls, by choosing his inducements using a bingo machine. This is the man that you're playing here. So when you see a roster like this where he's put some guard in, he's got some things to make throw teammate easier, he's got a kind of big roster with rerolls and bribes, he's going to be a bit of a force. He's going to do everything he can to give those Snotling coaches a run for their money, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I've yet to play Scott. Obviously wasn't in my A&D BBL group last season. Haven't yet played him at a tournament. I really want to. The vibe I pick up from Scott is, if you're another coach at that tournament, doesn't matter how well you're doing, you could go 6-0-0 and win your games 5-0. You're still not having a better time than Scott. I mean, goblins are just wild, right? I mean, you've got 2 pile drivers, the Lone Fowler. I love the Lone Fowler on the Looney. That's just a great pick. Oh yeah, you got sneaky get dirty player with the hooligan for good measure. Yeah, I mean it's just a great team, and obviously well coached and coached to the style that suits the coach as well. Again, like we obviously have the Norman Boot Award, which is kind of lovingly named after the fact that I know Scott was very sort of pro having a fouling award for the Artharks and Dragons tournament in the end of August or beginning of September. So I've kind of homaged it to the fact of, Scott Norman gets his boot award, gets his second boot. I don't have a boot for him like I did at Woodbridge, but there's a tournament trophy that he can win if he can foul the most. That's what I've kind of gone for. So
I have no doubt that he will give it an absolute good go. And this is a roster that's built to do it as well. The sneaky git, the pile driver, it's all the key things he needs. And you can't plan against Scott. You just have to turn up and see what happens. But you're going to have a fun game, absolutely. Let's go on to the next roster. We're on the home stretch now, and we have got Bonafide Brigade, Shambling Undead. Do you want to take us through this Shambling roster?
yeah, so looks like a fairly sort of standard undead roster. You've taken 2 Mighty Blow on the blitzers, given the fact that they've now got tackled as well. Seems sensible. 2 block dodge ghoul runners, and then the other 2 skills you put double guard on the mummies. 4 rerolls, which will allow for Ollie to be a little bit more aggressive on blocks, maybe do some clutch dodges where he needs to, even though the agility is not brilliant on some of these players, but you might need a dodge then and now and again. And the choice of the Necromancer, which I also think is nice. So you lose one of those mummies, maybe to that cheerleader event, the Chaos Renegades knocking them out on the line. You might be able to get that back. And I think this is the first time we've come across Eye Gouge as well, which is one of the new skills, which obviously cancels out guard, I think, or doesn't offer offensive and defensive assists.
Yes, I think it's until you're activated, you lose the ability to provide assists after you've been pushed. So not one that I've come up across so far. I've played some teams with zombies and it's kind of not come into effect. It's a really important one to remember because it can make some of those early blocks on the line really key. I think the thing that surprises me with Shambling, the mummies are great. Guard on them is going to be so key. The ghoul runners and the white and the white, block tackle, mighty blow on there, they're going to be terrifying. Shambling are quite a scary roster. They're always tiered quite highly for a reason. And and that taken into account, he's got 14 players in this roster. So it's, the likelihood of you whittling them down to make your game easier is quite low. So they absolutely have staying power.
Yeah. Oh, and it's interesting as well that Ollie's taken a decision to split his linemen. He's gone for 3 skeletons and 4 zombies. I know there's a lot of people who go tournaments. You take the zombies because they have higher armor. You're not going to lose them as often. Yeah, you give up a movement, but I think Undead's biggest problem is the fact that although the mummies are their strongest players, they can often get kind of locked out of the game, particularly if they don't remove the lineman that they've ended up kind of getting tagged against. And so you're in a danger of the drive kind of grinding to a halt because you just can't move forwards. At least the skeletons with their extra movement gives them a bit more flexibility to keep up with the ghoul runners, which are obviously by far the fastest players on the team. So I like the choice of taking some skeletons. I think that's quite clever, to allow you to kind of maybe use them as a bit of a later screen in your offensive drive to get further up the pitch. Gives the ghouls more of a chance to get into the end zone than hoping for just removals.
Regen across the board and 4 rerolls and 14 players. If you come up against Ollie, I think you're always going to be coming up against a lot of players here. let's move on to the next side here. And it's my turn to talk about a Lizardman side. How has Justin built this side compared to yours? Well, he's gone for a Croc Skull with Guard, 4-block Saurus. He has chosen not to put any skills on the other 2 Saurus. Instead, he has gone for Leader on his Chameleon. A roster of 12, only 1 built-in reroll, then a team mascot, then a temporary cheerleader. Interesting this then. So he does have the option of 3 rerolls if he can keep the chameleon alive and if the mascot works. Then he's got the sub as well, rather and he's got an APOC in here as well. I'm almost baffled at how he's managed to afford the lot. So he's got a bit of everything, but I guess the rerolls there, depending on what happens to that chameleon, a little bit less guaranteed. What do you think to this? As someone who's also got a Lizard roster, how are you looking at his approach here?
So I think Justin's probably gone for trying to make sure that he has 11 players in the second half. I think that probably is really sensible. I think probably the thing that I fear with this roster is losing that chameleon early doors and the fact you're down to 1 reroll. I think particularly if the Lizard team receives, they kick in the first half and they lose that lead if it was fielded in the first half, and then you get that dreaded double skull on turn 9. Do you then have to you almost have to take that double skull and the position could collapse quite quickly. However, it's got a lot more solidity with the fact that you're going to have more players. You can afford to push a skink through and maybe stretch the line to force players to move about and maybe break things up a little bit. And obviously with the Saurus, with the fact that they're strength 4, if you can get kind of things one-on-one with the Saurus, you're getting 2 dice blocks quite a lot of the time, unless you're playing something like Chaos Chosen or Nurgle or Renegades. So I just think it's a completely different style, and kind of this is the danger bit, obviously, is there's a lot of things that obviously have to line up in that kind of worst case scenario. And my worst case scenario is obviously very different to Justin's. Mine is obviously my players get murdered and I have no team. Whereas obviously Justin's gone for if I lose that leader, I have no reroll. So if I then get some bad dice, then my positions might become untenable. So I think actually the Lizard men, you could almost say are well structured as a roster. You have to give up something. You can't create a perfect Lizard man roster. And that's what I think I like about this team. So yeah, I like this choice. I don't obviously think it's a bad choice. Justin's a very good player, so it'll be interesting to see kind of how the two compare. This is my first tournament with Lizards, so I expect this one to beat mine. But come on, you got to take Frenzy. You've got to take Frenzy. It's such a good skill.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because of all the teams that had various changes, Lizard Men had sort of the changes felt quite minor for the 3rd edition, but actually when you're then starting to look at how rosters are being built, you're looking at your Saurus and you're going, okay, well, if I can't have block everywhere, maybe that's not the worst thing in the world because I've got Juggernaut for some blitzers. You're looking at a Chameleon and you're going, yeah, but I can now have leaders, so I can free up that money elsewhere. So it's changes that feel quite small. Actually, maybe when we're seeing more and more builds for them, we're maybe going to see a bit more variety of people who are like, I value this bit, so I'm going to do this. And those small changes possibly making a big difference. We'll have to see. I'll see whether I change my Kent roster depending on whether you or Justin finish higher.
Yeah. I do like that point though about that Lizards have become very cookie cutter. They've become very cookie cutter in the fact that it was the same every time, and now you have variety, and I like that.
I think it's good. Let's talk John Reeder then with the Hellfire Howlers. He's bringing Necromantic Horror here. Talk us through this roster that he's gone for.
So we've obviously got 12 players here. They've gone for two ghouls and taken one with strip ball. There's no block on either of the ghouls there, which is interesting. Double block on the werewolves, so no choice to take something like Mighty Blow to try and go with the claws. Guard on one of the wraiths, and then the flesh golems. I think is the traditional kind of one block, one guard, three rerolls. Another undead team that has decided to take Necromancer. 12 players in total. I mean, A&D BBL triple champion with a very good roster. So this team's going.
Yeah, it's it looks like he's gone for all of the positionals. He hasn't left anyone to the side. He's got 3 rerolls within this roster. They look like they're going to be a difficult one to break down. They're going to be good on the offensive with the block and the frenzy and the claws. Just going for the one skilled ghoul runner. I think is interesting choice. John Reeder is not afraid of having his big guys score touchdowns. I've seen Ulf Werner's, Black Orcs, all sorts in different teams that you don't expect to be your goal scorers going in and getting touchdowns. So John Reeder, you can never really rule out with things like this, and he's been very successful with these Hellfire Howlers in the Ibble League. Taking Necromantic Horror, it's not a team he is new to, and they are looking very strong. All the positionals, 4 linemen, 3 rerolls, all under budget, with then a good array of skills. It's going to be absolutely one not to be messed with, for sure. Going to be really interesting when we get to the roundup how much eye gouge we see coming into play with some of these teams.
Yeah.
That's something that I think is going to be quite an interesting one to watch. The combination of eye gouge with guard, and how that, whether in hindsight we look at it and go, because we had guard, eye gouge didn't matter as much, or because we had eye gouge, I could have probably put something else on those guard pieces. That might be an interesting kind of review. Let's go on to Mr. Dave Rue then, also bringing Necromantic Horror. How has he gone different? Well, he has gone a lot more guard by the looks of it. 2 flesh golems, both with guard. 2 werewolves, 1 with block. 2 wraiths, both with guard. One ghoul runner with a skill with block here, but he has gone for 2 ghoul runners. He's also got 4 zombies. He's also got 3 rerolls. So the team build is the same, but the skills are different. What we said about lizards and how maybe there's now more variety with the cost changes in Necro. Do you think we will see less variety because you can just take everything and it's like, well, I'll take them all and then just minor skill tweaks here and there?
Yeah, that this actually feels like one of those in terms of like for interesting tournaments. Necro have been made easier in terms of like what you buy at the very least. And obviously we can see from the 2 rosters they're similar. It's interesting though that I looked at it and I kind of went, okay, we've gone for the traditional block dodge on the ghoul runner, so we've got a very secure sort of ball carrier. But then I also looked at it and I went, where's the ball sacker? And then I went, so because John's taken the strip ball, that's where the ball sacker is going to go. But you have a less secure ball carrier, so there's still things having to be given up on the Necro rosters in terms of skills. Positionals is still easy, but you've got 8 positionals in this team. No skill pack in the entire world is going to give you 8 skills on a Necro roster. They're just not going to do it. So you will have to make choices. 2 guard wraiths instead of 2 block werewolves. It's just an interesting difference to see how they play. I mean, the wolves will obviously be dangerous because they've got frenzy, and 3 rerolls means you can probably afford to greed reroll a frenzy if you think there's a surf on someone. If that first unskilled wolf does something silly like rolls a both down skull, but Yeah, I still think there's some interest in Necro. It's just now not in their positionals. Um,
Neither choosing to take. I guess the only difference I've seen before is anyone who tries to squeeze a star player in maybe goes for 3 werewolves within the build and squeezes Wilhelm in and sacrifices elsewhere. But um, uh, Dave, again, a very good coach, knows what he's doing. Another coach who is playing this tournament team in their current league, so more familiar, more practice with them as well. So going to be very familiar with that roster when they get to it. 4 teams left to go. We have got Unsullied here bringing another Tomb King side. And it's a Tomb King side that's put some frenzy in there. So I'm sure you'll be happy. Talk us through this. Talk us through this team.
yeah, so 13 players. So yeah, going to be hard to kind of get rid of these. Another Necromancer taken. So we're going to see a lot of undead players staying on the pitch. 1 assistant coach, 3 rerolls, and then we get into the players themselves. So another roster where they've double dipped on the thrower, so taken 2 throwers, 1 with block. The Blitz has taken tackle, which I think is really sensible. I love the pick of the frenzy instead of like a double tackle or like a guard. I think that's really good. 2 break tackle Tomb Guardians, which I think is pretty cool. So they're going to be pretty maneuverable. And considering, they're quite slow, if you can kind of reposition them quite easily. 3 rerolls will mean that maybe you can greed reroll 1 if you need it to, and then obviously the guard. So put the skeleton lineman either side of it, and they'll provide a really solid base. Tomb Guardians, again, they're just really hard to get through their block. The biggest problem is going to be their movement, and I think Unsullied has tried to answer that with the break tackle.
Yeah, a couple of strength 5 adds 2 pieces just casually stepping out of a line. I've played them I've got a friend of mine who's played them quite a lot recently, and it always felt like if you could gum the team up a little bit, they weren't really going to go anywhere. So that does give you something extra that you're going to have to think about, the fact that they could just hop off and go somewhere else and punch something else. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he gets on compared to the other Tomb King's team, whether having that extra maneuverability sort of combined with the guard and the lineman give him a little bit extra.
Yeah, I remember what I said about kind of narrowing that pitch for Tomb Guardians. If you can narrow the pitch, it means that your Tomb Guardians are even more effective because you've got to defend less space. So the frenzy there is basically going to go, well, now you've got to play in the middle, and the Tomb Guardians are going to go, well, you can't get past me, can you? Because you're strength 3 and I'm strength 5.
Not a team I would. Strength 5s you should be limited to 2. No one should be allowed more than 2. It's just criminal. But anyway, let's have a look at Black Orcs. Bashman's Bash Boys bringing Black Orcs here. It's our second Black Orc roster. He's gone for guard on the trained troll, 2 block, 2 break tackle, and 2 tackle for the Black Orcs. Sneaky get on one of his goblins, 13 in the roster in total, 3 rerolls, 2 assistant coaches, and 2 cheerleaders. So lots of extra staff coming in, and I am immediately loading up our other roster that we had for Black Orcs, because I feel like we haven't gone for exactly the same. We have not got guard in there. Instead, we've got break tackle, and we've not got mighty blow in there. We've got tackle instead. So almost as if he is prepared for us. It always feels like the 2 Black Orc coaches are prepared for different scenarios.
Yeah. It's interesting. This one has gone with the sneaky get, and obviously me mentioned about the fact Black Orcs kind of like make your players disappear behind them, never to be seen again. It's interesting though. There's always a debate over, do you take sneaky get or do you take dirty player? I've taken sneaky get before, thinking that, well, I'm at least going to be able to foul more often. But dirty player has, obviously because of the +1, a more reliable ability to remove that player. So I wonder how Bashman's going to find that this weekend. Whether there's going to be that kind of consistent, if only I had that +1, that player would be gone sort of experience with sneaky get, like I did when I took it. And it's another interesting choice of just in terms of variability. Do you drop another Goblin Bruiser and use the additional 5 treasury for a bribe? So do you take more of a risk on your roster numbers to try and get that bribe? So if that player gets sent off early doors, then you can try and recover it somehow. I wonder whether the sneaky gets more in there, just as kind of like a do you know what, I'll throw the cheeky foul and see what happens, rather than it being like a core principle of the game plan. But interesting, I say, we've just gone something different again. Still another terrifying roster, because again, Black Orcs suffer from a lot of the same things that I think Tomb Guardians or the Tomb Kings do. Their big guys are very slow. The Goblins often leave behind the Black Orcs because they're quite easy to lock down. So the fact that the break tackle is in there, you're going to have more of a maneuverable team and cage. So I think that break tackle is actually a really good choice, just to kind of keep the ball moving.
I like the idea of a circle of Black Orcs grabbing any player into the center, where they just is a sneaky git goblin waiting for them to foul them into oblivion. Narratively, that's fun. That's good fun. So that's very kind of like Birmingham suburb mafia style, and I'm all for it. Good luck to the Black Orcs there. See which of the 2 Black Orc teams come up on top. Penultimate team then, it is another Snotling team. It's Don't Call Me Flossie, who I've seen at a number of tournaments playing the stunty game, and he has brought a interesting roster here. I've lost track. I think it's your turn. Why don't you
let's go for it. I can do this one. So again, this is another Athena Blood Bowl League in Norwich. So Steve, I can't remember, was running Underworld Denison, I think, in the last league. So yeah, does throw himself into kind of like the smaller version of the green skins with a lot of what he plays. I'm less frightened by this roster because there's no pile driver, but it's still pretty terrifying. And I think the thing that terrifies me most on this one is the Halfling Master Chef. So we've got a Master Chef and a Riotous Rookies as well.
Oh, that's filth. Oh, I hadn't seen that.
1 reroll, but you're probably getting at least 1 more, right? We've got a Brawler Troll, we've got a Pro Troll as well, so you've got some ability to try and re-roll anything failed on the throw teammates. A Break Tackle Pump Wagon, which again I think is just a really good choice. A Frenzy Pump Wagon, given that it's got Juggernaut. I don't think it's a bad choice.
No.
I think it's quite sensible, actually. You're going to play a different game, obviously, to the other Snotling team. But obviously, this is where we go back to where Snotlings are powerful, right? You've got a dirty player and you've got the lone fowler, and hasn't been able to fit the bribe in. But the Master Chef, I think, could be really, really good. Considering we've come across a number of rosters that have taken 2 rerolls. Max, you could be playing against a team with 0 rerolls, with 16 players. It just shows Snotlings are really good.
And I've seen, I saw this was a couple of years ago, a coach take a dwarf roster to a tournament where they basically took all linemen, but then took the Master Chef. And the theory behind it was, I don't care about having rerolls. I just don't want my opponent to have any, and I will trust in the block on all of my dwarf linemen. And I think they ended the day with 3 draws in a row. I don't think they had quite enough kind of offensive capability, but they were able to stop other teams from doing a lot. And that chef almost giving you giving you the rerolls is not as strong as taking the rerolls from your opponent. And that is gonna absolutely, there's a lot of like we've seen a lot of coaches who have maybe gone some who have gone lower on the reroll side. I'm now picturing myself taking Justin's roster and being really scared for that 1 reroll I might lose. I guess though, the mascot being cheaper and a couple of leaders elsewhere, those can't be stolen. So I guess if you do come up against this team and you've gone for that route, you've gone for a mascot instead, you've at least got that in your back pocket because that's not going anywhere.
Yeah, I think with the two kind of Snotling rosters we've seen, I think there's some incredibly good matchups in favour of the Snotlings, for them to be had. Obviously, we'll kind of see the shape of the 2 days, and given the fact that it's 6 games instead of 3, that's why I like 2 days. I think you can kind of see how the rosters perform longer term. I think it's easier to have some decent dice and have some things go your way across 3 games. But I also think the coaches of these teams are pretty good. And Don't Call Me Flossie is actually the defending Ness Point Cup champion. So Steve will obviously be up there or thereabouts. But a really, really good roster. Yeah, this is my new loathed team.
No pressure then, just retaining your roster, retaining the crown with this stunty lineup. Easy, right? Easy.
Yep.
Last team then, we've left the Amazons until last. Looking at the Amazon roster then, here's somebody braving the team all on their own in any structure. The team that so many people say are so powerful, particularly in this new edition. We have got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 linemen, obviously all with dodge there. 2 Python warriors. No, I'm seeing it wrong. 1 Python warrior with block, 1 Piranha warrior with wrestle, 1 Piranha warrior with block, and then 2 Jaguar warriors, 1 with guard and 1 with block. 4 rerolls in that build, apothecary and a team mascot. So the potential of 5 rerolls. So 5 rerolls, all but 1 positional, but you very rarely need 2 throwers. Those positionals have some good skills on them. Everyone's got dodge across the board. Why do I bother? Andy, why do I
I mean, the whole thing about Amazons, right, is just that they're just super brittle, and if they start disappearing, you really start to struggle. It's not like they're not elves who can kind of they can dig themselves out of a hole if they get down to 7 players. I think I was again chatting to someone about this. With elves, you can kind of go down to 6. As long as you're playing against 10, as long as there's a hole to kind of get through with elves, you'll always have the speed and agility to get through. I think Amazons, they don't have the same ability to kind of break through the line, but they do have the durability because they've got the dodge. I think what we might see is we might start to see Zons actually start to drop down, maybe from tier 1s to tier 2s, based on kind of how we're seeing certain rosters kind of form, because there's so much tackle mighty blow about now that's just really dangerous for Amazons. You're going to break their armor on a 7+. You're going to get rid of them off the pitch for the drive on an 8+. I think I did some maths on it. It works out like 1 in 10, 1 in 12, something like that. But if you're doing that a couple of times on your turn, you're going to break it eventually, and that +1's going to go maybe onto an injury. I think this is why Andy's probably taken the apothecary, because it's just much better. There's only 5 positionals. There's only 5 skills that have been taken as extra. Those 5, if any of those 5 go, you will really start to struggle. I'm not even sure I could say, well, I'd be okay with losing that one. I think they're all so important. Yeah, I think they are. I still think they are a good roster. Andy is trying to break away from the wooden spoon that he won last time. He was playing halflings. I think it was the first tournament he'd done, and he's gone for Amazons this time because I think they've just got a little bit of control. But I think what Andy will be hoping for when the draws come out is any of those teams with mighty blow tackle are somewhere else in the building, just way over on another table. And I'll just play everything that just doesn't have block and doesn't have tackle and doesn't have mighty blow.
I guess that's the tricky thing with some of these, we have to remember we're still only 2 to 3 months into this edition and seeing quite how these changes to rosters, how there being maybe more with tackle that have been added somewhere, and how things have changed on more teams with access, how they actually are going to have a long, we're still very early. We could be doing this time next year and we could be like, Amazon's clearly middle tier, because we could suddenly change everything once we've got more, which does make it so tricky. But Dodge across the board, they're going to put up a fight no matter what, which is going to be so good to see. That is all of our rosters then. That is all of the rosters from Ness Point. We will end it there on one final thing. Andy, give me your gut top stunty and then tournament winner based off the rosters there. If you just had to say gut, which one's going to be at the top of the table?
Stunty, I think I'm going to go for Thacker the third with that Snotling. And because I'm not going to pick the same team twice for winning the tournament, I'm going to be boring and go safe, and I'm going to go Joseph, just because we know he's a really good coach. But we know that it's a dice game, and anything can happen. Anything can happen over 6 games. We don't know, and this is the brilliance of tournaments and the brilliance of 2-day events. I always think there's loads of opportunity to recover from games, and it always feels like you've got one more to get bad dice out. It's just the great thing about 2 days.
Well, good luck to all coaches going down or up, or most likely east to Ness Point at the weekend. We will be back next week. We will be back to do a roundup of picking out some of the key fixtures from the 2-day event. We'll pick out a few and have a look and see how people got on. But until then, Andy, thank you very much for joining me. Very best of luck with those lizards. Please message me immediately after day one and tell me whether there's any changes that I should be making before the rosters lock in for Kent. That would be very much appreciated.
Sure.
Thank you very much for joining us. We will see you next week. Have a good tournament, and we'll see you then.